Ken,
Nate,
welcome.
thank you.
Welcome to the
It's
Headspace
great to be in your
podcast.
space, man.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
it's been a minute. Tried to get you out a few times,
Yeah,
but hey, it's good to have you finally here.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks. Great to be here.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
heck yeah. Here on the podcast, we try to kind of reflect with local creatives about what kind of drew them to the industry, what sort of creative muse inspired them, dig into their work a little bit. So I guess kick us off with kind of, are you local to St. Louis? Are you established here? Are you originally from here? And we'll start there.
Yeah, grew up in North County in Florissant, and always loved movies and wanted to be an actor, I thought.
Okay.
And so did theater in high school. And in those days, there wasn't all the media that we have now, those type of classes and whatnot. The gear wasn't accessible. So you couldn't do anything really cool on a low budget. But, still creating and doing things and just the imagination. That was great. Went into the Navy and then was reading some books on like the film industry and acting and whatnot, and thought, well, is this what I want to do? I don't know. And then at that point, just started reading a bunch of books on directing and the more technical aspects. And yeah, went to college after the Navy, and I've done some cool projects, music videos, things like that. Haven't directed a feature film yet, and we'll see if that's still possible. But have written some scripts.
Do you have inspirations to direct feature films eventually? Or is that something
I
that
don't know, man. I'm
yeah.
like, as I get long in the tooth,
Yeah.
it's like, man, that's a big undertaking.
Yeah.
So with to go the indie route, it's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's just like even smaller projects, like a music video, a 3-4 minute music video, you're putting weeks into it, a lot of resources. And if you don't have a budget, then you sometimes pay out of pocket or just do whatever it takes to tell a great story.
So it sounds like you started drawing inspiration at a pretty early age. Did you ever have a camera around? Were you rolling tape? Were you recording any voiceovers when you were just a little pup?
Yeah, my dad had always had camcorders and
Okay.
whatnot.
Yeah.
So I did some time lapse and some things. Did some things with friends, like my theater friends and whatnot. Nothing really like planned out. It was more like improv. And yeah, so nothing. I didn't storyboard anything. I didn't really know what I was doing. I think it was in my head, but I just didn't take it seriously because, as I stated, I was thinking more of the acting route. So I wasn't thinking of, the aspects of a storyteller. But then when I went to college, all those pieces came together, and I started learning all these things, watching all these films I had never seen, like just diving back into the history. And with some of the classes, we had a history of film class and film appreciation and all those. So it was it just opened my eyes to a lot of a lot of films, a big catalog of films that I hadn't seen. I mean, I was kind of open. I would rent a lot of things and just like look back into the history of cinema, but to really dig into it and have that understanding and have those textbooks and really, the nitty gritty of it all, it was really eye opening. I really enjoyed that.
Was that something that you always realized, even in the military? You're like, this is something I know I need to come back to? Or was it when you came back, you're finding your footing and be like, well, I've always had an interest in the creative arts. Let's give this a shot and see if it works.
Well, I think at that point and I forget what the book was that I read, it was like, oh yeah, being a director, a movie director would be amazing. And then I started reading a lot of screenwriting books and all that. So I knew pretty much right away when I was, at that point, like, okay, film school's the way to go. And, that's what I want to do.
Any particular film that kind of stands out as like, an oldie but a goodie, but that put the spark in your heart?
That is a tough question.
Okay.
That's a tough question. And I'll go back and watch some things
Yeah.
and be like, wow, yeah, that's why. It's at that magic. just a few nights ago, I rewatched the movie Get Shorty,
Okay.
and it's a Barry Sonnenfeld film, and he directed just a lot of great movies. Started as a cinematographer, and I listened to one of his books, an audiobook, and it was really cool. Just to hear him read it, hear his adventures, and it's something that, wow, back when I was starting out, that would have been so valuable. Because I really, being in the Midwest, didn't really have an understanding of how you get to that point of, that Hollywood level. I mean, it's so cool now. Like, you know how this goes with the technology. You can do incredible things, and you have. And but back then in the like mid to late '90s, it was technology was, film is what I shot my senior thesis on, 16 millimeter film, and it was so expensive, and there was just so much to it. And then right after that, I graduated college and directed a music video for some friends, and with that, I put it on a credit card.
What was your senior thesis? Walk me through the script.
Yeah, with that, and that's where I come upon the advice telling, young filmmakers, like, make sure your script is great. And that was something where the script was decent, but the execution, that was the project I did right before that, which was, I think, more original, and I should have probably did that much simpler for a senior thesis. It was just two guys in a library. It was just, I think it was pretty interesting dialogue, and it was just more dynamic. My senior thesis was a film called Java, and it was more dynamic in the way, like, locations and everything. We shot at the AT&T building because I needed an office building.
This one right down here?
Yeah, the one
Okay.
downtown, I think it was just sold for like $1 million
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
cheap.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. But I think the production, as far as being a producer director, that one was really dynamic because I permitted an alley, like, just right around the corner. I had what are the other locations? Keener Plaza. It was all based like downtown St. Louis, and then that AT&T office building, and that was making a call, talking to some people. They're like, great. I mean, I don't think they charged us anything, but it was because at that point AT&T had moved. They were still using some of the offices, but for the most part they were super cool. We had like the big lobby there, and as far as really directing something that was like bigger than I had ever done. It was a real movie. So the execution was great, and then looking back, it's like, that's one of those things. The script should have been worked a lot more. Get feedback, all that. I just kind of wrote it, didn't have a lot of time, and then it was jumping into it. And I think that's the thing with getting out there and making something with your friends is sexier than sitting in and writing. But
Right.
but the script is, it's the spine of the thing, so you need it.
But going from a project like that and then taking the good and the bad and reevaluating, like, and I'm not sure if it was something that you realized fairly immediately after watching back, like, oh, I should have done X, Y, and Z with the script instead of this, and this. But I think it's the importance being the important part being the process of just executing,
Yeah.
and then revising, and then doing it over again, revising next project, revising
Yeah.
next project, and that's kind of how you perfect the art of the craft, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it took a while to get to that point.
Yeah.
I think as far as when I was a student at Webster, I probably had more projects than anybody at that point, because it was all these video classes. So it was, that medium. The film was so expensive, but we did have a lot, a lot of opportunities. I did these our media excellence awards that were called the Webbies. So that was a bunch of projects. So yeah, there's just a lot of production, and going through the process, I would finish one, and I just didn't feel like, I was like, I'm not good at this. And then I'd edit it, and then it would be like, this is pretty good. This turned out well.
Yeah.
And then the next time, it's like, because you're working with actors and crew and figuring it all out.
Yeah.
And it's like, this doesn't feel right. I don't think
Yeah.
I'm that good at this. And then it was senior year, that library film. It was like, whoa, that just, it felt right and it clicked. And it was like, yeah, I'm pretty good at this.
So when do you get to that point where you start realizing that you can trust your gut? There's a lot of imposter syndrome just in the creative world in general, but I think in particular in the Midwest, a lot of creatives we rub shoulders with, there's like this, not stagnation, but there's just a lot of apprehension. Like, I don't think I can do X, or I don't think I can work with brand Y. At what point in your career did you know you could trust your confidence, you could trust your gut, and you started reaching for like those higher level projects?
You know, I think early on it was like I felt I could do, once it clicked with those last two films, I was like, yeah, I can do anything. The technology wasn't necessarily there. So it was still shooting film. And then at that point, it was mini DV, which you could shoot progressive, and that looked pretty good. So that was a little simulation. Of course, it was 3x4. So you had the square,
Yep.
aspect ratio for television at the time. I think at that point I felt like I could do anything. It's just like, given the opportunity, I probably felt less apprehension than I do now because I wasn't quite to the level I am now. But it did seem like the stakes weren't as high then because
Right.
I was still learning. I was young, and now
Lower budgets.
now being older, it's like, well, I should know how to do all this.
Yeah,
I'm at
yeah.
this point, and I've done it long enough. Yeah, just getting those resources. That's the tough thing.
Yeah.
But like just developing projects and writing a script. And again, I think like my first feature script that I wrote was about a independent professional wrestling group. And that was one thing where I wrote the script, and as I was writing it, I was kind of figuring out a budget and this and that. So I was kind of putting the cart before the horse. And it's just like, oh, I want to make something, and the script was decent enough. And since I've been through many drafts, but I think it's better now, and that's something I need to look at again and do another draft. It's a mockumentary style, so I
Okay.
think that's something that could be done with less resources. But then again, it was almost like, looking at that now, I had written a scene where like, oh, they're going to have this wrestling match under the arch. And at the time it's like, yeah, that's nothing you've seen. But now we see UFC
Right.
at the White
At the White
House. So
House.
it's like, yeah, I should have, I should have worked a little harder, 20 years ago when I was writing that to, now it's like everything I've written in there, you've probably seen
Yeah.
already.
The more shock and awe, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. So now it's almost like I'm mirroring things that have happened in real life instead
Right.
of things that were from my imagination
Yeah.
many years ago when the world was a little less crazy and before we had all the reality shows and all that.
Yeah. Have you ever gone through the process of selling a script to a major studio or anything?
I have not.
Okay. Okay.
No, I did have through a friend of a friend get coverage from the agency ICM. So he
Okay.
gave me some coverage, and
Yeah.
that was helpful. Yeah, I just never, I'm not. I realize, I'm not the greatest writer, but I think with the directing aspect, it's more psychological, and that's something that just understanding humans and just what makes us tick. Just the little nuances, how we react to things. It's like a psychology. I guess looking back at times, I thought, yeah, maybe I should have been a counselor. But really, I think as a director, you need to have some of those qualities and have that understanding of the human condition.
I'm curious to know if while you write, are you also imagining how the scenes are shot and what the angles are and what the lighting is going to be? Or is it purely the story that flows for the sake of the story without even any visuals coming to mind?
That's a good question. And I think myself as somebody that, has worn that director's hat, and that was, my primary ambition in life. I think, yeah. And I think maybe that's why I wasn't the greatest writer, because I was thinking of the scenes and all that, maybe before I was getting the dialogue and all the basic elements. So again, I was a step further, or, I was like stepping on my own feet when I should have maybe been a little more stripped down for the writing of the script, or partnering with other writers or whatnot, and maybe coming up with concepts and letting somebody else write. But again, it's just one of those things. Writing doesn't really cost you anything. It's time.
Right.
And, just the time getting inspired. You watch a cool movie and then have different ideas and throw it together. Shorts, I think some of the shorts I've written were pretty good. But features, there's a lot to a feature to make a good feature. And again, I just never wanted to make something that was going to be, for lack of a better word, dead on arrival. Where, you put all this work into it, you raise money. In the indie world, you're getting people to work for next to nothing. Most people are working for free. I've always fed people well, so that's no matter what it was. That's a key to
Taking
the
care of the
indie
crew,
world.
yeah.
You got to feed people well. That's a
Right.
bare minimum.
Yeah.
But I guess it was just one of those things that, not wanting to make something that nobody's going to want to watch because you just didn't put enough time into the writing.
Take me back to the filmmaking world in St. Louis 20 years ago. I know that there is a short film community in St. Louis, but you were a filmmaker in the commercial side of things. How did you get there? And how did you get there 20 years back? And
Yeah.
what was that community like? Were you one of the first players in that space to reach out to major local businesses and be like, hey, this is what I can do for you? I mean, 20 years ago, social media wasn't a thing. The internet was a thing, but not as much of a thing as it is now. So how did you pitch your craft, and how did you start making money on higher budget projects?
Yeah, starting out working on different projects, commercials, a few jobs as a production assistant, but at the time, St. Louis being a smaller community, there just, at that particular time, there were a few features that came into town. So a lot of guys that were more experienced were working on those. And so then that just opened up an opportunity for corporate projects, commercial projects to do different things. And I think one of the earliest jobs I did was sound, and then I did teleprompter, and then I did some grip work.
Okay.
And then I did locations. At one point, somebody said, hey, there's not a lot of location people in town.
Scout for us.
Can you do locations?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I do it on my own projects.
Yeah.
And again, I was able to get the AT&T building
Yeah.
in school. So, going there and scouting on my own.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it wasn't difficult, but it was just one of those things, you just being resourceful and networking. And so, I just like to talk to people. And so, yeah, you just start chatting with people. And granted, there was, there's been tons of indie people in town. You just, of course, you don't hear about it unless you're in that circle.
Right.
Or you're going to the film festivals and whatnot. So, yeah, you meet a few people at a film festival, and it's like, hey, maybe we'll do a project, or they know you from this, or you work on this thing. One of the big things for me, just right out of college, was working with my friend's band. So it was a friend from college. He had a different band than the college band that I put a few music videos together for. And it was just having that hunger and wanting to tell stories and make cool things. So it's just like all I wanted to do at that time, and was trying to figure it out. So I was probably less focused, and it was like, what can I do now? Those are the things that were real. Making a movie at that point was the dream. But hey, I can put this music video together for these people. And then getting the name out, it was like at that point, it wasn't even DVD when I started. It was like you had VHS tapes and you're passing those around, or check this out.
Yeah.
It's so much easier now.
Yeah. Just airdropping WAV files.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, now let's go to my Vimeo or whatnot. I'll send you a link. Then
YouTube.
it's, hey, let's meet up for coffee. I'll give you this tape. Or
Yeah.
drop it in the mail or whatnot. And then, of course, the quality's not that great.
Right.
But at the time, that was the quality you had. So even taking film and, then you're dumping it down to like VHS. And it's like, man, we just took a 5 steps back.
Yeah. Well, now the look is 90s retro.
Yeah.
That is old school now, and, at least couple of my clients are kind of chasing that look. They're like, yeah, give me more grain, give me more, desaturation, like more of a retro look.
Yeah.
And it just kind of comes in waves, I guess, right?
Yeah, and it's a hot thing, and it's
Yeah.
just like, well, we'll go. We haven't seen that in a while. Let's
Yeah.
go back to it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. I think a lot of social media I've noticed
Mm-hmm.
like has a bit more of a grittier take. There is a lean toward the organic, right? To help challenge and push back against all of the AI generated
Mm-hmm.
stuff that's out there. And I feel like the cultural push right now is like the more organic, the better in some way, because that way people can immediately recognize whether or not something is human made versus
Interesting.
AI made.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, the AI has that gloss look. Like you can kind of
Yes,
tell.
very
Right
much.
now, you can almost always tell.
Yeah.
But then there's some things that are difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, what am I seeing? And it's kind of scary.
It really is. For me, the tell is always in the audio and like the cadence of the voice, especially if it's like a talk over, monologue sort of thing. I'm like, that's like 90%. I'm confident it's AI generated. But walk me through your thoughts about AI and having been in an industry that is so organic, physical, like all of that stuff. What are your thoughts on the next 10 years in the filmmaking industry, which I used to think that AI progression was still, a 30-year mark, but now I don't know, I feel like every single year the milestone gets moved up substantially. And where do you see the filmmaking industry impacted either commercially or recreationally, kind of on the Hollywood scale? What are your thoughts about it?
I mean, it's a cool tool,
Mm-hmm.
but I think for myself, I think collaborating with people and seeing what ideas you can come up with, and like you mentioned the term organic,
Mm-hmm.
and it's throwing it out. If I can't figure something out, but we're talking about something and you throw that idea out, and then I say, oh, wait a second, and piggyback, and we're leapfrogging.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I think that's magical. And I mean, part of me is AI. I was listening to the radio coming over here,
Mm-hmm.
and they were talking about how people now create these like Bad Bunny ripoffs and Taylor Swift,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just saying, give me something that sounds like Taylor Swift that's about this,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's churning it out. And it's just based on other people's work.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, when we create something, essentially we're creating it based off how we've observed
Inspiration of
and
other people.
absorbed other
Exactly.
people's work.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little different because
Yeah.
then you mix in our life experiences and just
Like the human condition, like you
yes,
talked
the
about.
human
Yeah.
condition. I think if we lose that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, art is one of those things that I think it just gives us purpose and it's fun. And we want to do it. It's hard at times, like making a movie, but I think using elements of AI or algorithms or however you want to look, I think so many companies right now are using AI as a buzzword to raise money, or this is AI. I mean, granted, anybody that uses Photoshop, the masking is so great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and they say that's AI. I mean, is that really intelligence or is that just some algorithm or how? And I'll use
Right.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a great tool.
Yeah. The line in the sand for me, at least more on the photography side, is like I can do net subtraction, but not addition, right? And so like cleaning up an image, making sure that the focal point of the subject and composition is very clear and helping it get there by removing twigs, branches, whatever,
Yeah.
imperfections. But like throwing in something that wasn't originally there, that's where I'm like, all right, that's kind of like my line in the sand.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of other creatives have kind of different ways of thinking about that. I don't really utilize it much on the video side, but yeah, curious to know your stance on that.
Yeah, I've used a few things, but
Okay.
I haven't used like Envato has, I think,
Yeah.
an AI function. I haven't even looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
I know a buddy of mine, he's used it for some corporate things or clean up sound. I mean, that's one thing. I guess I'm using it for some of the different sound plugins. Yeah, it's just it's going so fast. It's hard to wrap one's head around it. But I think using, maybe if you needed a particular shot, and you're like, I can't get this any other way. I'm doing this independently. I don't know any visual effects artists that can do it. So yeah, it's gonna really make this film. So I guess maybe we have to look at what are the rules.
Right.
Is there, you have your own line in the sand, you have your own personal rules, and I guess we could say ethics maybe. But what are the rules that it's an actual film? Like what percent can you use to
Right.
get by?
Right.
And to say I directed
One of the bigger things to me is, does it add or take away from the story? Right? Does it make the story more potent or believable? Because, so many movies these days, the CGI effects, yeah, they're impressive, it's great. But if that's all you rely on, and you lack in character development or narrative or script, then, in my opinion, it just kind of falls flat.
Yeah.
Right? And it's one I'm really appreciating how many kind of indie horror films are being created right now.
Yeah.
Low budget horror films. And that, again, to me, reiterates that acting and scripting like trumps all. You don't have to have big budgets. You don't have to have special effects. You can shoot an entire movie in 3 locations, and as long as you have a really good script and, a really good acting crew,
Yeah.
that is what people still really enjoy and find entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something you may not have seen before. So,
Right.
like that, what's it, Backrooms?
Backrooms, yeah.
Yeah, I have not seen that yet, but I was just talking to a friend about that, and
Yep.
that's just something that just kind of came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But that's an interesting one where that was inspired by some memes or whatnot. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool that somebody's taking something in their world that they're seeing and their viewpoint of what that is.
Yeah.
And something about, my friend was saying, like, certain generation, like open spaces, empty spaces like that freaks them out. I'm
Yeah.
like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check this out and see what
And
it's all about.
The whole lore and universe of the Backrooms all stemmed from, some empty office photo that somebody took years ago.
Yeah.
And it sparked this whole unsettling lore around this thing, which again, it's really cool that someone can take what they would assume to be a pretty bland photo.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then people pick it up, pick up the idea, and then they run with it. And then it's this entire new genre of unsettling office space that you never even thought was going to be a thing, right?
Yeah, and that's super cool.
It is.
When you have that idea and it happens,
Yeah.
and that, aha moment.
Yeah.
And, but we could both say, all right, we want to have a movie about this, and punch it in the computer, and then, change some things up. But I don't know. It's just kind of, I'm unsure about it. I have to see how it kind of pans out.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm a purist. Maybe I'm, an imbecile, because that's the way you got to go. But
Right.
But I think there's now pushback. We see with the
I think so,
graduations.
too. Yeah.
And then there's people on the radio saying, yeah, you know what, AI songs, that's just kind of lame, and just don't listen to it and don't promote it. So I think there's going to be that line in the sand, or where people are going to say, yeah, we'll look at funny memes and all that. That's pretty funny. But I think at some point it's maybe a fad, but only time will tell. Only time will tell.
Yeah. Yeah. I anticipate a little bit of a bubble in that whole space right now, because I think that there's always going to be a longing, like a cultural or a longing that's global, rather, that people, there's an affinity for human made stories. There's an affinity toward the human condition, and that will always exist in some version in the arts, right? Whether it's painting, architecture, photography, video, it doesn't matter. But this thing that connects one, individual to another individual, and the story that they share, that is a life lived, right? A similar life lived that kind of crosses boundaries, right? And I think that has staying power, and that's always going to resonate with people. So there has to come a point where if something becomes so easy to produce, and then you input, it generates a 90-minute or 2.5-hour film, and it was done in 3 days time, 5 weeks, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know how long
But
it
then
would
it's just
take
like
to do so.
I think the value and appreciation towards something like that just drops dramatically. And then you're just saturating the market with just all these just AI generated things.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like there's going to come a point where there's just going to be natural pushback against, like, hey, I don't want to see something that was prompted. I want to see something that was created
Mm-hmm.
with, with people like me, people in the industry
Yeah.
who have the knowledge, who can tell a good story, who can act really well, who can light things really well. But I'm an optimist. That's where I feel like
Yeah.
it'll land eventually.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
But things are so cyclical.
Yeah.
It's just like the Marvel movies
Mm-hmm.
are a little stale right now, where
Mm-hmm.
people aren't. It's just effects,
Mm-hmm.
not the greatest story, but where the comic books that those came from in the 70s, it focused a lot on social issues and all that.
Yeah.
The X-Men back in the day, back in the 70s and 80s, was a lot about diversity and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And I think we're always going to have things like that. I don't know if we'll ever live in some utopia. So we're always going to have those stories of the human element and the, positives, the negatives, you have to have stakes in a good story. You have
Right.
to have good drama. It's not always, peaches and cream, for
Right.
lack of a better word.
Right.
A nice twist. So yeah, I think that'll always be there, and it'll be where it's okay. Let's see a low budget indie movie that's got a good script, or like the like the Back Rooms and something, and then maybe you'll have like some high budget AI type films that's people watch, and then maybe people will say we're not going to watch that, and then but you'll have an audience. It's like the Wild West.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to look back at this conversation 5 years from now.
Right.
And
Right.
go, what happened?
They had no clue, or
Yeah,
like they knew
yeah.
exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, where can we find your work? Where can we find your social media stuff? It sounds like you have some projects that are in the mix being worked on. Do you have a plan on releasing those? Where are they going to be released? Where can people find you?
Yeah, I need to go back and just put a website together, but I have Instagram, it's Ken Calcaterra.
Okay.
I think Facebook is like my name, but then the official page, I think, is Ken Calcaterra, visual storyteller. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Ken, for your time, and appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for the opportunity, Nate.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.